Then comes validity of measurement. Two important concepts related to measuring instruments that we use: validity and reliability. In general sense, validity refers to the whether the measuring instrument does what it is intended to do, and reliability refers to how consistently it does. So, it is critical that our measurement of variables be both valid or reliable. If they are not, then we cannot be sure of what we are measuring. The validity and reliability of a test are established by evidence. The length of big toe can be measured with a high degree of consistency, but it is unlikely to avoid or to be a valid predictor of academic success. We can measure many things very reliably, but unless they enter into a meaningful behavior relationship, that is lawful relationship, they are not useful. Thus, we can achieve reliability without having validity. However, the reverse is not possible. In order to be valid, a measure must be reliable. Let's look at 5 steps of validity that are commonly distinguished: content validity, face validity, concurrent validity, predictive validity, construct validity. You can see in the figure, content validity and face validity relates to states of current knowledge, skills, where predictive validity releases to future performance on a job or a task. Concurrent validity assess similarity to the other current measures, and construct validity deals with evaluating theoretical terms. These are the ways to assess validity. We'll study each validity in deep. Content validity. With content validity, we are interested in assessing current performance rather than predicting future performance. A test is constructed to measure whether participants in a program have mastered the contents of the program. Course examinations, whether midterm finals or some other kind, deal with content validity. Developers of social programs that require training of personnel are connected about the effectiveness of the training. Thus, they frequently rely on content validity. Content validity is achieved by constructing a test drawn directly from material in the program or course. There can be disagreements regarding the representative of the test materials. For example, student taking an exam sometimes complain that it did not cover the material they were required to read. If this were true, the exam would be low in content validity. Although not always possible, we could assure representativeness by constructing a complete list of the content from the program or course, and then selecting test items randomly from the material. Thus, content validity is based on prior consideration about what content will be included. So the measurements drawn from the course or a program material. Face validity is similar to content validity, but it is determined after the test is constructed. We ask ourselves whether or not the test appears on the face of it to measure what we intended to measure. If the test is known to have content validity, face validity can be assumed. However, it does not work in reverse direction. That is, face validity does not ensure content validity. The face validity of an exam is research method would be high if the question appeared to deal with the research methods. However, without actual knowledge of the course material, there would be no assurance that the questions were representative of the actual course material. Then comes concurrent validity. Measurement is similar to other established measurements. Often we measure psychological construct, for which there is a long history of investigation. Such constructs include intelligence, aggression, fear, attention, depression, anxiety, and many others. One way to assess the validity of our instrument is to determine whether it has concurrent validity. That is, whether it provides measurements that are similar to those provided by other measurements or instruments. Previously established or valid designed to measure the same construct if our new measures of aggression results in scores that are same as or similar to those found with traditional measures of aggression. Then we can be reasonably confident that we are measuring the same construct. For example, if the authors develop a new Lammers-Bedia depression scale, we would want individuals to complete our instruments as also to complete and establish instruments such as Beck Depression Inventory, BDI. If our scale is fact major depressions, then individual who scored high means depressed on our scale out to score high on the BDI as well. Then is predictive validity. Measurements predict some target behavior. It's called criterion validity. Is often used in program evaluation and is very suitable for applied research. Essentially, a test is constructed and developed for the purpose of predicting some form of behavior. For example, scores on the SAT, the predictor, is moderately correlated with academic performance in college, the criterion. Knowing this relationship and an individual scores give us a better idea of how a student will perform in college than we would have in the absence of this information. The higher the correlation between the criterion and the predictor, the greater the predictive validity. Indeed, if the correlation is perfect, that is 1, the prediction is also perfect. However, most of the time correlations are only modest, somewhere between 30 and 60. Nevertheless, they are considered useful. It is very difficult to construct a good predictor measure. It is also very difficult to obtain a good criterion measure. Construct validity, a series of measurements that supports a psychological concept by predicting operationally defined behavior and is one of the most important and most difficult to understand. We also can touch upon it here. Construct validity is especially important for the construction of theories. Researchers create theory constructs to better understand, explain, and predict behavior. Many hypotheses that are tested in research are derived from constructs or theories of behavior. The construct or theory predicts how people should behave under certain conditions. The degree to which the results support the theory is a measure of construct validity. Examples of some constructs are frustration, aggression, motivation, learning, fear, hopelessness, creativity, and intelligence. Constructs are created by describing the procedure for measuring them. If the instruments of the measuring assist us in understanding and predicting behavior, they are considered valid. If they do not serve this purpose, their validity is rejected. Notice how constructs are related to the notion of operational definitions discussed at the beginning of this chapter. Constructs are general terms that can be operationally defined in different ways. For example, the construct of aggression could be operationally defined as the number of behaviors that leads to physical harm, or it could be defined as the number of physical and verbal threats. Thus, a construct attempts to summarize or explain a set of operational definitions. Construct validity asks whether a particular measures actually measure the construct that is intended to measure. Establishing construct validity involves several steps. Generally, the researchers or theorist design a test and specifies what it is intended to measure. The test is then tied to or related to the relevant theory. Then predictions are made that related behavior to the test score. Finally, data are gathered to ascertain whether the predictions are confirmed. So let's consider two related examples of psychological construct and how construct validity was assessed. So in the late 1960s, Martin Seligman conducted a series of studies with dogs that led him to develop the psychological construct of learned helplessness. Let's consider two related examples. Let's consider two related examples of psychological construct and how construct validity was assessed. So in the late 1960s, Martin Seligman conducted a series of studies with dogs that led him to develop the psychological construct of learned helplessness. He observed that dogs that had been exposed to situations in which they could not avoid an unpleasant event would, in later situations, not even attempt to remove or avoid an unpleasant event, even when it is possible. This finding led to the hypothesis that early lack of control over environmental events can be deliberating both cognitively and psychologically. That is when individuals are subjected to aversive environment, events over which they have no control. The result is learned helplessness, which will be reflected in impaired learning, reduced level of motivation, poor performance, and physiological deterioration. An extensive series of studies in other animal species, including humans, since the late 1960s, supports the notion that the construct of learned helplessness, that is a predictor, does not lead to the behavioral evidence of impaired learning, motivation, and so on. That is the criterion. This correlation between the predictor and criterion provides evidence of construct validity in most recent years. Seligman has developed the related constructed and learned optimism in 1998 and the Seligman Attributional Style Questionnaire, SASQ, to measure optimism. The construct validity of learned optimism has been demonstrated in numerous studies that shows a relationship between optimism scores as the SASQ predictor and measure of success, performance, motivation, and physical well-being criterion variables. Again, such research evidence supports the notion that psychological construct for optimism is useful in understanding, explaining, and predicting behavior. If learned helplessness and learned optimism exist, then certain behaviors should follow. If our expectations are confirmed a number of times in a variety of settings, our construct is useful. That is valid. Usually, many studies are necessary to demonstrate construct validity. What time and continued research before the construct and the theory usually undergo a series of modification and become more refined.